So I want to thank you both, and I want to thank the former general. I keep calling him general, but the guy who runs that outfit over there. I want to make sure we thank the secretary for all he's done to try to implement what we've just talked about.
That is the President of the United States. That President of the United States forgot the name of the person that he appointed to Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. He also forgot that it was the Pentagon. This is not a stutter. This is not a person who is basically developing a stutter. This is a wisp of a man. 10 years ago, Joe Biden was a different man. It happens to all of us as we get older. There's nothing wrong with admitting such. It's just that he's President of the United States. As I watched this, I thought to myself, his wife doesn't love him, at least not enough to not have him doing this and being in this particular position. I get the Democratic Party wanted to stop Sanders. I get that this was the only guy they could come up with to stop Sanders. And so they put him in. The blacks, for whatever particular reason, accrued around Joe Biden. He was the person that was known, and Joe Biden was able to lift off. Not to mention a bit of cheating going on in the primaries, but whatever. He's president. The thing is, Joe Biden is still held responsible for the diminutive policy agenda that he put forward. That included $2,000 checks, $15 an hour minimum wage. And again, it's not that the policies in the stimulus bill are bad. It's that it is missing key items that he promised. That is a very big deal. The $15 an hour minimum wage thing is tremendous for all sorts of people. 42% of the population was making $18,000 a year before COVID. And you're talking about people running around on a hamster wheel. Joe Biden brought that up against Trump and defended the premise of the $15 an hour minimum wage. Brought it up as president, saying that after speaking with his economic team, we have to make sure that people get the $15 an hour minimum wage. Anything less is a starvation wage. And even this is a compromise position. Joe Biden has all sorts of powers, and the powers go beyond just the tangible things that he can do with his ink pen as president of the United States. It also goes to the people that he can push, meaning the magic of the presidency being used in order to go after a particular person that is blocking your agenda, whether Democrat or whether Republican, or sweet talk the person that is blocking your agenda. If Joe Biden put foot in ass of the various people in the Senate that was blocking his ability to do his job, he could do so. And honestly, if the House decided that they want the $15 an hour minimum wage in the bill, because keep in mind, the Senate is just the perspective. The House is just the perspective. The perspective of the Senate has no more overriding authority than the perspective of the House. And all the time that the Senate basically kill that bill, it takes time for that bill to go back to the House. Joe Manchin and those Democrats cared more about destroying the lives of those workers with that $15 an hour thing as opposed to getting that stuff out to those people as fast as possible. It's going back to the Senate, to the House. The House is basically going to pass this, which means there's a problem. Joe Biden has either lied or Joe Biden did not have any honest push to get $15 an hour minimum wage. He told people that over and over again. And while there might have been a large contingent of people that voted for Joe Biden just to get rid of Trump, you also had a large contingent of people that wanted and expected and had hoped that the president would live up to his promises, especially since the president says, I'm not going to be the guy to lie to you, and etc., trying to make a difference and distinction between who he is versus who Donald Trump is. Fair enough, but he said it over and over and over again. And the first sign of pushback, he abandons it. I want to talk about the filibuster. And I also want to talk about the way that Joe Biden continuously puts up roadblocks. Roadblocks. He put those roadblocks up. Joe Biden could have pushed to get the Democrats on board to make sure that that went through in budget reconciliation. He didn't do that. Joe Biden could have told Kamala Harris to override the parliamentarian. He didn't do that. He started down in $15 an hour minimum wage thing like a month ago. So any real notion that that doddering old man either has the temperament, either has the urgency that's required for that type of thing, even has the capability to extemporaneously talk off the top of his head to either defend a position or, for that matter, to advance a position, I don't think he has it. Not looking at that. And I can entirely understand why he has not given, let's say, any major interviews. Democrats, at this point, are stuck with a problem. You've told the American public in broad, open-mouthed terms that you were going to give $15 an hour minimum wage. That is a lot of people, millions, that is affected by it. You're ripping the checks out of, 17 million more people's hands in coming up with this particular bill. But more than anything else, I want to focus on the $15 an hour minimum wage because that is huge. Yes, you can help people with the $300 child credit. That's great. But you know what would also help with that child credit? If that person and that parent was getting $15 an hour. You know what would help the person who's working at the pizza places or the coffee shops? What about the workers at these retail places that had to continuously stay there and work and do the job through the pandemic? Are those people not worth $15 an hour? What on earth? Why are you so hateful of the American working class? That's what I don't get. Why is there so much animosity and venom towards the American working class where the politicians, the Democratic Party, does not believe that the working class is worth $15 an hour? And I'm saying the party as a whole, because the party as a whole is making these choices. They're negotiating with themselves. They have all the power in the world to make choices, and the choices that they're making are against the American worker. And I want to understand why. It's one thing to help somebody to say, hey, we're going to help with the COVID thing. That's nice. It's one thing to say, we're going to give child $300. Again, that's nice. The $1,400, that's nice. But $1,400 is rent. That's 1 month. That's 1 month. Going forward, it's the money that they could put in their pockets. It's the money where they have to put in their bank accounts for the first time when they have a little bit of extra change. It's in some cases people doubling what they were making. It is a life changer. And to be so cavalier as to throw that overboard like that, to throw that out there to the American public as bait that you can just reel them in after the fact. Surprise, suckers. With a president that doesn't have the capacity, just looks like a front for something else at this point. I'm making the point that you have a problem. How do you pass it? And you need to explain to people. I mean, Jen Psaki is still saying, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. One way to do it at this point. If you're not going to use budget reconciliation, if you're not going to get Kamala Harris to knock down the parliamentarian, then you're stuck with getting rid of the filibuster. And I will tell you this, you either destroy the filibuster or you will be destroyed by it. And I would make the case that Joe Biden loves that filibuster and is going to do whatever it takes to keep that filibuster intact, because that filibuster is a limit on expectations. And that limit on expectations is something that he needs because of his diminutive wants, or for that matter, capabilities. By having the filibuster there, by having these fake restraints, Joe Biden is allowed to remain diminutive and focus in that little sandbox, pretending as if the rules of the Senate, the Republican Party, that some of the force is acting against him over the next 2 years. When the honest truth is, he has all the capabilities in the world to deliver on that small, tiny agenda that he said he was going to deliver on, but he is not doing it. He's not taking the opportunities to do it. And you have to question whether he even believed it, because a president that believed it would use the fact that 525,000 fucking Americans have died, went up in flames as a result of what the government did. How many businesses went up in flames as a result of the government's malfeasance? And I don't give a shit if it's Trump or if it's somebody else. Trump was acting in the auspices and the power of the government of the United States. My point is that the country is old. And the idea that after destroying this many lives, after that many people dying, what happened, or what did the government do during the Great Depression to try to make amends, to try to balance the scales, to give back these kind of reparations to the American public itself? And compare that to now. And compare that to the devastation of the Great Depression versus this and what happened during the COVID strike. And then you can look at Joe Biden's plan and ask if the 1.9 trillion is enough. The key piece that make that plan is the $15 an hour minimum wage. And that is the thing that you need to get past. And unless you're going to kill the filibuster, it ain't happening. Welcome to the soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. This content is brought to you by you, and I appreciate you allowing me to do it. I've made this point before about the filibuster, that it needs to be destroyed. The fact of the matter is, it's a fake security. It's fake security in the sense that the very next time a Republican takes the Senate, the Republican can blow that away. If the Democratic Party wanted to stop the Republican from getting some particular policy through that the president really wanted them to get through, the president could say, get rid of it. And Mitch McConnell or whoever else is there, depending upon how close they are to the president, how animated they are against a particular policy, could turn around and say, we'll do it. They can blow it away, and they can push through whatever agenda that they wanted to push through. Now, from the standpoint of the Democratic Party, it would be insane if you invest your hopes and your ideas into this thing as a security blanket, because it's not. But the key point of it is not about being a security blanket. It's there so the expectations of other people can be managed. Because if it wasn't there, the public will be looking to you to deliver on the things that you said you were going to deliver on. And having this fake wall that you're leaning against gives you this excuse. Listen to Jen Psaki, because what this basically means is that any reality of getting an agenda accomplished is destroyed. You're not going to get 60 votes on these various pieces of legislation. Whatever you're going to get, you're going to get it now through budget reconciliation. And the moment that you try to bring Republicans into the debate, they're going to water it down, if not cripple it entirely, with the politics or the politics of it, for them doing everything they can to cripple your ability to succeed, because they want to get back in office based on your failures. Listen to what she said.
Does President Biden agree that there needs to be tweaks in how the filibuster is utilized?
Well, I'll first say the president's preference is not to get rid of the filibuster. Look at what we've been able to accomplish in the last 6 weeks. He's on the verge of passing a historic relief bill that's going to cut child poverty in half and create 7 million jobs. We'll have enough vaccines for all Americans by May. 13 cabinet nominees have been confirmed. We rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement. We ended the discriminatory Muslim ban.
Yeah, but those were things that could be done almost through executive order. Meaning, what has been passed or the president have actually signed is different than what, let's say, the House might have passed, or what the president has basically asserted through executive order. Those things are different. Those things are different. If Biden wants to get his agenda accomplished, if he honestly wanted to get it accomplished, and honestly, even beyond Biden for the moment, if the Democratic Party wanted to get his agenda accomplished, they could do so. They could blow away that filibuster right now. They could say, look, it is important, it is imperative that we keep the House and the Senate during the midterms. And so we are going to pass America's agenda so America knows that there's a party that is trying to represent that particular demographic. And by the way, Biden's plan is relatively small. If you just did what you told the American people you were going to do, they would be so blown away by the fact that somebody did what they said they were going to do in the interest of that particular public, that you would not have to worry about the Republicans taking the Senate, or for that matter, taking the House, or for that matter, taking the presidency. You would be able to dominate this particular political space, especially with the new voting rights legislation that has been passed. But that's not what is taking place. And the belief is that we can continue with business as usual with Joe Biden as long as we give back pennies to the American public. They'll leave us to our devices because those pennies are more than what they've ever gotten. And they will be shocked that they were getting anything at all. And so they would be so appreciative that they wouldn't care about the $15 an hour minimum wage that we told them we were going to pass, that he told them as a candidate he was going to pass, that he told the American public as a president he was going to pass, and then flaked out with a wisp of opposition. It's not even real. You don't even have to deal with the other party in this case. This is all on you and whether or not you're going to do it. And the reality is, either he didn't mean it, either he was lying about it, or he didn't necessarily have the stamina or skill or political acumen to get it over the finish line. Either way, it's a failure from the standpoint of the American population. And you need to explain to the public how you're going to get the $15 an hour pass, because you cannot blame Republicans for something that you yourself failed on. In fact, the filibuster is not even needed. In real terms, what Joe Biden needs it for is, like I said, expectation management. The reality is the House or the Senate already has a significant advantage in regards to this kind of minimizing the scales or balancing the scales. California and the sides of California, 2 senators. Rhode Island, sides of Rhode Island, 2 senators. It's already balanced out. California is dramatically disadvantaged in the Senate, meaning the minority gets a larger voice. Either way, you don't need to add the filibuster to it to make that much more significant, where you basically just bring everything to a halt. And look, I would even argue that the Republican and Democratic Party prefer things to be to a halt because that basically keeps business as usual. Getting rid of the filibuster helps with the keeping business as usual. To make this point that much more plain, this is the filibuster chart. At one point in Congress, it was only one tier, meaning anything that took place only went down, meaning if somebody called the filibuster, everything stopped. Everything stopped. In the 1970s, they made a 2-tier system. So you can have multiple things, pieces of legislation being judged and dealt with at one moment. So the filibuster of one doesn't necessarily stop the business of Congress continuing. But look at what happens. At a certain point, it starts to skyrocket. And when you get here in like the 90s, 2000s, it becomes just business as usual. Wasn't meant to be business as usual. And yet, 60 votes became a hurdle. And making that 60 vote hurdle made almost pretty much anything impossible to get passed, especially when you have 2 political parties and one political party basically says, I'm not going to work with you for pretty much anything. And compromise doesn't necessarily apply unless the compromise is bringing things down to such a level that they are either ineffective or dubious. In this very specific case, Biden didn't have to work with that. And honestly, if you really did want to get America's agenda accomplished, destroying the filibuster would be the start of it. If you're not going to destroy the filibuster, if you're not going to tweak, alter, augment, radically undermine the filibuster, then your presidency is over. And in real terms, the $15 an hour minimum wage at this point is off the table. You're not going to get the 60 votes. You couldn't even get everybody on your own team to get on board. You probably could get people on your own team to get on board if you wanted to, which is my point. He doesn't want to. He doesn't have it in him. Outside of, like I said, the suppositories and the prune juice, Biden doesn't have it in him. He can't get up there and fight in those ways. He can't get up there and make that point. He doesn't have the stamina to keep on a particular pace over and over and over again until he gets a particular agenda accomplished. He doesn't have the ability to use the presidential bully pulpit to beat the hell out of the people who are blocking his agenda, to scream viciously at those people saying, how dare you block America's agenda, and then point. Have your supporters point. Have people going to their places, holding signs, how dare you block America's agenda, and do that. Or for that matter, talk to the people. Call them into your office, browbeat them. Have people to call them bad names as they sit in a tiny chair and you raise your elevated desk looking over them, telling them that this is what you need to do. Do that. Otherwise, you don't mean it. Which is, again, gets back to my point. If the Party is honest and real about imparting America's agenda, destroying the filibuster is where you start. Didn't need to be there in the first place. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks all.